Rockstar gang, what up? What up? What up? Happy Monday to everyone. Happy Monday to everyone. Shout out to everybody in the chat. What's good? What's good? Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I appreciate you. Luke's already in here. We got a lot to talk about, man. There's so much to talk about. This might be like a 2-hour live stream. Not gonna lie to you. There's so much to talk about. We gotta dive into Ike Aquano. We need to dive into Ajiro Evero. We need to dive into my goodness, so many things we need to dive into. Jalen Coker. We need to talk about K Mays. We need to talk about I don't know where to start, man. It's just like there's so much to talk about. What we do need to dive into is this break. What I want to start the show by is breaking down the season, the whole 2025 season, right? Just as a whole. And I just want to talk to you guys directly, no images, just me being just straight up with you guys, right? But let's get everybody in the chat. Luke, what's up, man? Marcos Cash was good. Underground West was good. Hayden was good. Zach was good. People if you're watching, do me a favor, make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe button on your way in. And of course, if you're new here, welcome. My name's Clay Ropp. I'm the host of the Ropp Star Report. And if you're into Carolina Panthers content, but also if you're into some NFL content, then you're in the right place. Because that's going to be something I'm going to be doing too, ladies and gentlemen. This offseason, my goal is to do more NFL content as well. But we're also going to be, of course, still going to be strictly Panthers. All right. But I still want to dive in. I still want to give you guys my thoughts. And I don't know if you guys like my NFL takes. Some do. Some don't. But it is what it is. Not everybody's going to agree with you. But I love just talking about ball. So going to try to do more of that. You know what I mean? But definitely, if you want to get some good draft content, I've got film on a lot of guys. We can break those guys down in this game, this upcoming draft. So that's something we're going to be doing. Also got some giveaways coming up. I owe you guys like 4 giveaways. I know I owe you a hat giveaway. I owe you a jersey giveaway. I know I owe you. We'll figure out the other 2. Whether it's like, I was thinking about it. With how bad the economy is, how many of you guys in the chat could use like a Walmart gift card for groceries? You know what I mean? Like how many of you would love that? Okay. You know what I mean? So I owe you at least a couple of I do owe you guys some giveaways. So do a jersey giveaway. I mean, honestly, it's really up to you guys. I know I owe you a hat. I know I owe you a jersey. I'll probably do some more just Panthers giveaways. I mean, unless someone really wants like an Amazon gift card or somewhere to go out to dinner, something like that. I know you got families, everybody's got families here. So, yeah, we'll make it happen either way. All right. We're going to do that though. All right, let's dive into this season recap first. So I want to break down this season recap. I just want to be with full transparency, okay? I'll be honest with you. This team wasn't even supposed to look like this. This team wasn't supposed to look like this. This team wasn't supposed to make the playoffs. They weren't supposed to in the NFC South. They weren't supposed to do a lot of things, right? They weren't supposed to do a lot of things. And, we made it to the playoffs. And I'll say this. We were written off as a rebuilding team. We were also widely picked to finish at the bottom of the NFC. We were a team still searching for answers at quarterback, it seemed like, or at head coach across the roster. Instead, they delivered one of the strangest, and I'm going to be honest with you, one of the most exhausting seasons, but also the most like encouraging seasons this franchise has nearly in a decade. right? So that's the thing. That's the thing for me. It's like we finished 8-9 in the NFC South. Won that, we finished 8-9. We won the NFC South. They've hosted a playoff game for the first time since 2015. They pushed a Super Bowl contender to the brink in January, beat them the first time, was literally one drive and one play. It was literally one drive and one catch away from, literally being, I mean, another a playoff win. Like, again, this wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't pretty, but God dang, it matters, man. It does. We're going to have people come in here, Tampa Bay fans, Falcons fans, Saints fans. They're going to say what they want, man. They're going to come in here and they're going to talk smack. And of course, they're all going to say, we were a one and done. And we'll probably hear about it on the NFC South round table tomorrow and all this stuff. So, I mean, at the end of the day, man, like, no one expected us to be here. You get Cam Newton back in the building to end the season as well. Like, that's huge to see this team get back to one of its most iconic veterans, to bring him back into that stadium, let him pound the drum. You know what I mean? I mean, that's huge. That's huge. And I'll say this too. And I'm trying to pull up an image real quick. I was trying to pull up an image, but I can't find the image. It's all good. But if we're talking, what's up, Eric? We showed that we belong in the playoffs. Yeah, they're gonna act like they didn't expect us. They get blown out. Yeah, like, here's the thing too. It's like Tampa Bay fans. I've had Tampa Bay fans talk smack to me, saying, you one and done, but it's like, but then it's also like I've had other fans that sit here and say like, because I said that we proved that we belong, and someone said that, oh, here comes that delusional fan base. But then it's a Tampa Bay fan who lost to the Rams 34-7, talking to me about me being delusional. Make it make sense, bro. You split the series with us, but we split the series with the best team in the NFC, with an MVP quarterback, Super Bowl contending team. And you lost 34-7, but you're calling me delusional because I said we took that team down to the wire, and all I said was that we proved that we belong. Like, make that make sense. That's where it gets frustrating with this these fan bases, man. They don't get it. See, the expectation was versus reality. The expectations coming into this season, ladies and gentlemen, were low for me for a reason. I just thought it was going to be a progress year. I said 8-9 wins. That's what I was hoping for, right? In my heart, I was thinking 6-7. And in my mind, my heart was saying 8-9. In my head, I was thinking 6-7. And we did that. So at the end of the day, what we were coming in, that's another thing. It's like we were coming off such a disastrous season in 2024 and had questions everywhere. And we're handing the keys to a first-time head coach, last year. You handed the keys to him last year. Your first overall picks in the second year last year. And you were thinking, could they recover from such a daunting 2024 season, even though Bryce showed a lot of hope at the end of that? But that was because of Dave Canales. Nationally, the Panthers were treated like an afterthought, in my opinion. Even within the fan base, the optimism was cautious at best. By the end of the season, nobody was laughing anymore because this team didn't just sneak in the playoffs. They competed, and that alone should have flipped the whole narrative of this team. And I think you've got to give some kudos to what's up, Trizzy? What's up, SC Panthers boy? I think you got to give kudos to Dave Canales. I think he changed the vibe here in Carolina. I think head coach Dave Canales, and we're going to dive more into him, deserves a real credit for stabilizing a franchise that had been spiraling. I mean, this team played hard every week for him. They didn't quit after bad losses, didn't fold when injuries piled up. They were competitive far more often than their raw talent suggested they should. And that matters a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Like, Canales brought structure, he brought accountability, he brought belief in this team, right? And again, this team wasn't lifeless, it wasn't sloppy. Like, they were flawed, but they were connected. You could see that. That was a massive shift from things that I noticed this year under Dave Canales, which I think was a huge stepping stone, especially for this team, right? Hold on, I'll use this image. Boom. I'm gonna use this image to talk about the season. I think it's a great image to break it down because you got to look at that. You look at that image right there, and it tells it all. Tells it all about the season, if we're being honest. Because I think another thing with under Dave Canales, though, this season exposed a lot of growing pains too. Game management and play calling consistencies, which we're going to dive into a little bit more with Dave. They did. I mean, those became issues late. We talked about it, especially in these high leverage moments, right? Canales proved he can lead any NFL team, right? And now the next step is learning how to delegate and evolve. I thought Bryce Young, which we'll dive more into his season, was about survival and growth, right? Bryce Young didn't have a clean breakout season. What he had was something more important, proof that he does belong. And after being benched early in his career and playing behind a shaky protection, Bryce Young entered 2025 with very little margin of error. And early in the year, the inconsistencies were still there. The pressure definitely, I think, bothered them. I think you can notice that the offense felt fragile. And the doubts were loud. But as the season went on, something changed. I felt like Bryce Young's improvement in his pocket management was better. I thought he was playing with more anticipation. I thought he took hits and kept getting up. He delivered in high pressure moments. We saw that all year. But in that wild card loss, he went from blow for blow with Matthew Stafford and did not shrink, right? That fourth quarter touchdown drive to take the lead, even though it didn't win the game, but it told everyone watching in that moment that the moment wasn't too big for him. He finished the year not as a star, but as a legitimate NFL starter, in my opinion, trending in the right direction, trending upward. That's huge, right? And we should, and almost certainly will, I think, pick up his fifth-year option. And again, we'll dive more into Bryce, okay? Not because he's elite or anything already, but because it's about the stability. It's about the continued development mattered more than panic resets, right? So I think another thing is too, if we're breaking down this season, again, I think this image is just a perfect example about just how, if you look at the win-loss, right? The offensive identity found and lost and found again, at their best, the Panthers offense was balanced, physical, patient. I wish that we could have definitely kept that run game balance. And with how Bryce Young was really slinging the ball, I wish that we could have had that run game come back. I wish we could have had Rico Dowdle, which we're going to talk about him tonight and his future. When they leaned on the run game and used the play action to create rhythm for Young, the offense moved well. That high tempo offense worked so well with Bryce, and it made him so much more comfortable. But when Canales just abandoned that identity, especially in late in games, things got messy, right? I think pass protection was a persistent problem, but that's because of, I think, key injuries, guys going moving in, moving out, and getting guys back in. The run blocking was solid more often than not, but protecting Bryce Young down the stretch, I felt like got a little inconsistent. But again, that's because of all these guys moving in and moving out. I don't think the offensive line was a huge issue in the run game as much as it was our running backs, in my opinion. And we'll dive more into that. But there were still bright spots, right? Like Jalen Coker emerged as that a legitimate weapon, wide receiver too, who I think needs to get extended. And we'll dive more into him. I mean, Taylor McMillan, what can I say? Offensive rookie of the year for sure, a future star, 1,000-yard season, and showed he could be dangerous when Bryce Young was allowed to cut it loose. Keyword there, allowed, right? The offense isn't finished, but it finally feels real. And again, we'll talk more about Dave Canales and the play calling as well, because I do think we got to get an OC in here that can actually make call plays. And we'll dive more into that. On the defensive side of things, I felt like it went from a liability to where I felt like this was a very respectable unit, right? After fielding one of the worst defenses in NFL history in 2024, the Panthers made a massive jump in this year, right? They finished middle of the pack statistically. I think they were 16th overall. I think it was around that range. More importantly, they became opportunistic. They forced turnovers. They got key stops. They kept the team alive in games that they had no business being in. Mike Jackson played the best football of his career. Derek Brown reminded everyone why he's a difference maker, but he should have got a Pro Bowl, but got snubbed. Young players like Nick Scorton flashed some real promise. I think there's something there with Nick. I think that he just needs, maybe Princely can finally come on. I don't know. I just know that if Ejiro Evero is going to still be here, because he still has a lot of real questions to answer, we're going to dive into him too, especially about the late game conservatism. I mean, y'all know how I felt about that, but lifting a historically bad unit into a respectable unit is not nothing that we can't know. We cannot sit here and just throw that out the window. All right. Ejiro Evero, got to remember, took a team that had the worst defense in NFL history statistically and brought it back to 16th overall. And let's not forget, in 2023, we were 4th overall in the NFL as well. So that, again, do I think that Ejiro Evero can be a good defensive coordinator? Yes. But I'm going to dive into what needs to be done for that to happen, right? And it's personnel, it's scheme, it's a multitude of things. But the next step, I think, defensively, is we got to add some talent, guys. Like, this defense desperately needs a true edge rusher to go alongside Nick Scorton. You need a rangy linebacker, a guy who can be balanced in the run game, but also can blitz at times, can QB spy, can coverage. You need a guy. I'm not saying you need a Luke Kuechly, but you need a rangy guy. As you know, I'm trying to think of a linebacker that, like, I don't want to go too high on the pedestal, right? I'm trying to think of a linebacker that we need, right? A good example. All right. I'm trying to think of a good example. I can say Fred Warner, but I'm not going to say Fred Warner. Even if I could get something like perfect example, I mean, maybe I'm asking too much. Maybe a Bobby Wagner. Like, I need it. You give me a Bobby Wagner along Trevin Wallace, Christian Roseboom. Who knows? Maybe Isaiah Simmons can be a guy that Ejiro Evero can bring in this offense and our defense and really use, because he's such a linebacker safety hybrid type of guy. You know what I mean? Maybe that's a solution there while you bring in someone in from the draft, right? Like a Jacob Rodriguez. I'm looking at some linebackers like Jacob Rodriguez, who I really like. Now I get how old he is, Hatred. I'm not saying bring in a Bobby Wagner. What I'm saying is I want a linebacker like Bobby Wagner. All right. I want a linebacker like Bobby Wagner, not actually Bobby Wagner. All right. I think people, you know what I mean? Well, Bobby Wagner, but the thing is you need a Bobby Wagner, a guy who can play, who is a rangy linebacker. Bobby Wagner can fit in any scheme. Luke Kuechly can fit in any scheme. Fred Warner can fit in any scheme because they're such a rangy linebacker. They can play coverage. They can drop back in coverage. They can spy. They can blitz. Right? Really want Devin Lloyd. That's another good one. Sonny Styles, another good one. Sonny Styles is going to be tough getting him at number 19, though. We're the 19th pick in the NFL draft. It's going to be tough to get a guy like that. You know what I mean? You need but another thing is, chat, we need a ball hawk safety. DP1, I think Simmons can too. I think Simmons can too. I truly believe that. We need a ball hawk safety. Scheme alone won't take them further. But let's talk about the playoff game again real quick. I'm just going to give a quick breakdown. The playoff game that changed the conversation, right? The wild card loss to the Rams definitely hurt, but it validated our entire season, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we were double-digit underdogs. Many expected us to get blown out. Instead, Carolina fought back from multiple deficits. When we fought back from multiple deficits in that game, we did. We fought back from multiple deficits. We were down 14 points at one point. We were down 10 points at one point, right? Multiple deficits in that game. And we took a fourth quarter lead, all right? Forced the Rams to empty the bag to survive. Yes, mistakes mattered. Yes, execution failed in key spots, but this was a team. This wasn't a team overwhelmed by the moment. They belonged on the field. All right. They did, and they proved that. They proved that in that Rams game that they belonged on the field. And at the end of the day, you know, we lost, but who can sit here and say that we don't belong after that game? You can't. You can't sit here and say that we did not belong in that game. You can't. You cannot say that we did not belong in that game. We belonged on the same field with that Rams team, just like anybody else. DP1, I was saying again, guys, listen to me. I'm saying I want a linebacker like a Bobby Wagner. Not necessarily I want Bobby Wagner. He's too old. I know Bobby Wagner's old. If Evero interviews well with the Raiders, then we can trade him for draft capital. I mean, I don't see anybody hiring him for a head coach. I don't. I just don't. So there are fans out there staying. Say their fan out there staying. Say that, Clay. Can you say that again? Earl, can you type that up again? Their fan out there staying. Say that, Clay. I'm not sure what you're saying, Earl. What's up, Bees Knees? They requested for an interview for him, and so has Atlanta. We'll see if listen. If he gets a head coaching job, good for him. Then we can worry about finding our DC. But do I think that they're gonna get him? I don't know. I don't know. It's tough to say, man. I can't sit here and tell you they're going to. We already extended your ever. Yes, we did, but that does not mean that he can't take a head coaching job, Jeff. We would have to trade him, but You would have to trade him for draft. You could have to trade him for draft capital, which DP1 is correct on that. Evero be gone. I hope to the Raiders because I wouldn't want to see him twice a year. Kareem Sanders, I hear you, brother. Let's dive into Ejiro Evero though real quick. Let's talk about this guy moving on real quick. All right, because again, the thing that's so frustrating is that we thought this guy was on the hot seat. I thought Ejiro Evero was coaching for his career here in Carolina, right? And I thought his contract was over with. And then you hear these things where they got interesting because for months, really, from my public understanding and everybody else, was that Evero's was entering his final year of that deal in 2025. So that belief fueled all kinds of speculation that he was on the hot seat coaching for his career or coaching for his job in 2025. So naturally, in my mind, and also reporters' minds, obviously, were asking if that was still the case. And, hearing what Canales said caught us off guard. Now, later in the availability, Canales flat out confirmed that Ejiro Evero already signed an extension sometime over the past 2 seasons, and he'll absolutely be back as the defensive coordinator in 2025, and that he's going to be under contract until 2027. So this shit was locked in well before we even kicked off in 2025. But my question is, why was it kept quiet? You know what I mean, chat? Like, why was it kept quiet? That's what I want to know. Why was it kept quiet? Why didn't no reports ever come out that they re-signed him? Because Evero earned that extension after coordinating it. I'll say this: do I think he earned an extension? Yeah, to a certain extent, chat. I have to give the guy credit. We have to give the guy his flowers. 2023, 4th best defense in overall. 2024, worst defense in NFL history. Statistically. 2025, he takes us to the middle of the pack. All I asked for him was top 20. He got us to top 16, top 15. We finished the year, I think, 16th overall, if I'm not mistaken, chat. So do I think he earned it? Yes, to a certain extent. I mean, let's not forget, he gave up the most points in a single season in NFL history. You got to let that sink in. If the Panthers had announced an extension right after that, could you imagine how we would all reacted if last year they were like, oh, yeah, we're going to give this guy an extension after the worst defense season in NFL history? So they kept it quiet, which is obviously smart, but transparent, hell, fuck no, it wasn't. If it tells you, here's the thing, it tells you everything you need to know about how this organization feels about Evero. They believe in him in long term and longer than most fans realize, right? Again, Evero's defense has been all over the place. 2023, 4th overall defense. 2024, 32nd, dead last. 2025, 16th overall. That jump matters. We have to give credit where credit's due. All right. And we'll dive. Listen, we're going to dive into the scheme. Okay. I'm going to tell you what he does well. I'm going to tell you what he does wrong. Okay. Again, we went from an historically awful to middle of the pack, despite dealing with the injuries, young players being forced into big roles, and some truly uninspiring personnel. Nick Scott started every game at safety. Christian Roseman became a full-time linebacker when healthy. The front seven dealt with injuries and youth all season, yet that defense stabilized. Now, that doesn't mean it was perfect. Far from it. because the soft zone bullshit isn't going away yet. Let's be real. The playoff loss poured gasoline on Evero's criticism. That late lead, that soft zone, that defense vibes. Matthew Stafford was carving up the secondary like it was a fucking walkthrough. No pressure, easy throws. Game over. It was, again, this wasn't new, chat. This wasn't new. I can pull up film on it. Actually, I took a picture of it of the prevent defense last night when I was making my my shorts for you guys. This is here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about of a prevent defense. Look at that. Look how far off they are off the ball at the line of scrimmage. All Stafford had to do was dink and dunk and throw over the middle of the field. All he had to do. Again, the team, but see, this team sees this differently. Again, this wasn't new. It's happened before. It's cost us games. It's the biggest reason a chunk of this fan base wants Evero gone. The team sees it differently. From their perspective, they think that his scheme can work if they actually give Evero a real pass rush. And right now, the Panthers are last or near last in most edge rushing metrics. There's no consistent heat off the edge that really brings some difference. That really can neuter everything else. With Derek Brown back healthy and more talent added, especially edge rushers, make true chaos creating linebacker, right? The Panthers believe that this defense can take another leap, right? Now, I will say this. Here's the bottom line. Continuity matters in the NFL, ladies and gentlemen. Continuity now. I just I did. I knew it was coming. I knew it was going to come. You know? But again, the bottom line is, chat. The bottom line is continuity matters. It does. Continuity matters. In the NFL, it does. Big time. That's why you saw Evero stay. Especially for younger players that we had. This is a young team. Canals believes in Evero's leadership and communication and system. The front office believes that this roster was the big issue, not the coordinator. That is what Dan Morgan is believing, chat. And I said to myself, if Evero survived 2024, I was like, there's no way he's getting fired after respectively 2025 season and a playoff appearance. I was like, there's no way. There's no way this guy is going to get fired after getting us from dead last to the middle of the pack and getting and having a respectable season and getting us a playoff appearance. And I was like, what again? And I told myself, once I understand that this decision isn't shocking, it's just going to be confrontational as hell. And that's what you're seeing from this fan base. And that's what you're seeing from everybody in this fan base. Everybody is confrontational on it. I'm not surprised. I thought he was going to be gone. I thought he was going to be gone. I thought that he was fighting for his job, and I was wrong. But that was earlier in the season. I said that he was fighting for his job in the offseason. And then earlier on the season, after we were really having some bad defensive issues, that's when I was like, I made a short saying he's not going to be here next year. And boy, was I wrong. Now, again, here's the thing. Can Evero still leave? Technically, yes. Evero is expected to interview at least one head coaching job. Now it seems like two. He's got the Raiders And I think the Falcons, he's allowed to talk to teams with vacancies. But with how crowded this coaching cycle and several high profile candidates on the market, it's far from guaranteed he lands one. If he does, we can't stop him. If he doesn't, he's running the Panthers defense through at least 2027. So Giro Evero was never really on the hot seat. Let's just get that out the way. But I'll say this. Another thing with Giro Evero, players still believe in him. That's one thing that these players do. There's one thing that's consistent. The players haven't quit on him. The players haven't quit on him, chat. The communication improved. The assignments were cleaner in certain areas. You didn't see the same weekly mental breakdowns that plagued this unit before. For a defense relying on younger stars, patchwork, depth, zero elite edge rushers, that's an accomplishment. All right, he gets buy-in. He teaches well. His system makes sense when the game script cooperates. But see, the scheme works until it doesn't, because structurally, Evero's defense is sound when this team's ahead or playing neutral football. It can be disciplined, it can be frustrating, it can be effective. But here's when the wheels start coming off. Late game Evero is a problem. This is the core issue. There is no dodging it, chat. When Carolina has late leads, Evero almost always retreats into soft, conservative football. That prevent shells, minimal pressure, free access underneath. When you give a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, let me pull that image up again. Let me pull that image up again, chat. Hold on. Let me pull that up. Let me pull that up. When you give an MVP caliber, that type of space, he's going to feast. See, we didn't lose games because of one freaking throw. We lost because opposing offenses were allowed to walk down the field uncontested, bleeding out instead of being punched in the mouth. And that became a pattern, man. That became a pattern. And we saw that. Hold on. Mike McDaniel. Hold on. Here's some news that just came in. Chat. Falcons have interviewed Mike McDaniel for a head coaching job. I think I just saw one for Giro Evero too. Oh, that's fucking Rogers Realm. Dylan Raiola transferring to Oregon. My God, dude. My God. Jesus. Hold on, chat. Be sure to get yourself a Jonathan Stewart might need to have a conversation. We might need to have a conversation about Jonathan Brooks. Jim Harbaugh is being interviewed for the head coaching job at the Atlanta. We got to keep up with these, chat. We got to keep up with these. Let me see here. Damn, hold on. There was some other news. Hold on. Donovan Ezaraku arrested, booked for reckless driving. Of course he was. Trying to find. I thought Ajiro Evero was getting an interview. Hold on, let me see if I can find it again. Ajiro. How long ago did they announce that though? That he was getting an interview with Atlanta. What's up, Carolina Real? I thought there was some news that he was interviewing for the Atlanta job. The Raiders, I saw that. I just saw it. I don't know who posted it. All right, I got to find it later. Hold on, chat. Give me 1 second. I got to get some water. Come in here. I see you. Ah, sorry about that. He's getting interviewed by the Raiders, Vegas, announced 2 days ago. Yeah, I saw that. I was trying to find the one that they announced that he was getting interviewed for Atlanta, but they didn't. They haven't posted. I just saw the post. So I lost it. Anyways, DP1's coming in with that link. Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate that. DP1 being that guy tonight. I appreciate that, my guy. Appreciate that, my guy. All right. Well, here's the thing that systematically for a Giro chat. Again, the problem is with the Giro Everos, he coaches scared when it counts. Even when JC Horn is healthy, Evero tends to react instead of dictate late. That's where this defense looks weakest. Aggression doesn't mean blitzing every snap. It means challenging routes or disguising coverages, or he's trying to force quarterbacks to think. Instead, Evero often defaults to don't give up the big one. That's just all of in his mind. Like he's stubborn on that, which turns into death by 1,000 easy completions, dink and dunk. That shit doesn't work against good quarterbacks. So again, we don't have the pass rush is becoming a crutch, right? Yes, the Panthers desperately need a Batman level edge rusher, a Max Crosby, a Trey Hendrickson, somebody like that. And the only reason why I'm naming them is because the Panthers Nation is going wild for Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson. I can tell you right now, I'm going to be a bearer of bad news. You're not getting either one of those guys. You're just not. But we're not. We can sit here and be wishful thinking. We thought that we were going to have a chance to get Trey Hendrickson last year. What makes you think you're going to get him this year? We thought we were going to get T. Higgins after or in 2024 offseason and this offseason. Didn't get him. Okay. You went out and got Tedero McMillan instead, who I would much rather have. You got Jalen Coker. Okay. You're not getting anybody. You're not getting them. Can I just go ahead and tell you that? Can I just go ahead and tell you that? I'm just going to go ahead and be blunt and honest with you guys. We're not getting a Trey Hendrickson. You're not getting a Max Crosby. Everybody just needs to go ahead and get that out of its head. It's not happening. But you need a Batman level edge rusher, and that's obvious. But great coordinators don't wait for perfect personnel to coach assertively. They manufacture pressure, they steal downs, they adjust. Evero flashes that creativity, then shelves it when games tighten up. That's not a talent problem, that's a mindset problem. See, I think Carolina will go and get maybe a guy like Jalen Phillips. Maybe you could look at a I could see maybe a Jalen Phillips. I could also see maybe, let's see what edge rushers are available in free agency right now, chat. Thibodeau, again, that name's been thrown around too. I don't see it. I don't see a Thibodeau because I think the Giants like what they got. They just need a defensive coordinator that can make that team, that defense work. Sexy Dexy, Burns, Carter. Carter, right? No. Abdul Carter, yeah. Carter, Thibodeau. Who else? They got that safety too that we wanted last year. Who's the safety? Oh, they got Javon Holland too. Shit. I mean, that defense is nasty. I don't think they want to give up anybody like that. Let's look up. All right. NFL edge free agent edge rushers. Another guy I would like to look at, the edge rusher from the Chargers, Oweh. Let's see. All right, so we also need a ball hawk safety. I need a ball hawk safety. That's what I need. Boy Mafi. There's an edge rusher for you. Odefi Owae is another one who I would look at. Trying to find a ball hawk safety. Kyle Pitts is going to be, you know what's crazy? Kyle Pitts is going to be a freaking free agent. You got Caden Ellis as a linebacker that's a free agent. You got Leo Chanel, linebacker out of Kansas City, is a free agent. Who else we got? Reed Blankenship. Let's see what else. Nakobe Dean. Damn, Quay Walker is going to be a free agent too. Shit. Dude, there's a lot of guys who are going to be free agents. Wow. Jalen Watson's a free agent. Devin Lloyd's a free agent. Jeez, look, okay, that's Rasheed Walker. Damn, John Franklin Myers is going to be a free agent. Jalen Phillips is going to be a free agent. Tyler Lindenbaum's a free agent. Trey Hendrickson. Of course. Oh, I forgot George Pickens is one too. So there's a lot of guys that are going to be free agents. A little off topic, but remember when Bro Talk said we would get blown out? Yeah. I haven't forgot. I can't wait for tomorrow. I might have been wrong that we were going to win that game, guys, but they were definitely wrong that we weren't going to compete. Tell you that. Shout out to you, Regine. Appreciate you, my guy. But let's dive back into Ejiro Evero. What he does and what he doesn't good. See, like I said, Ejiro Evero needs a Batman level edge rusher. Like I was saying, he just does. Okay, for this scheme to work. All right. What's up, broski? For a Giro Evero scheme, you got to have a Batman level edge rusher, and that's the obvious. But see, the problem is, I think there's a difference. Great coordinators don't wait for perfect personnel to coach assertively. They manufacture pressure, they steal downs, they adjust. Evero flashes that creativity, then shelves it when games tighten up. That's not a talent problem. That's a mindset problem. And see, the thing is, the scheme. There, then you have to think about this: the scheme versus the roster problem. Here's where the conversation gets more uncomfortable, chat. Evero is committed to a 3-4 base scheme that simply does not align with what personnel we have. Even with Derek Brown, the Panthers don't consistently have what? 2 edge rushers who can win one-on-one. I think if you got someone alongside Nick Scorton, who a guy could get double team where Nick Scorton could get the sack, or a guy who can get the pressure where Nick Scorton gets the sack, or Nick Scorton's getting the pressure. You got to have that A and B. You got to have the balance, right? You need the A and B to get the C, right? Linebackers athletically enough to cover space and fit the run. You got to have that. True hybrids who can disguise roles snap to snap. Well, you got Isaiah Simmons. You got Tre'von Moehrig, but you need a ball hawk safety on that as well. See, the defense looks fine pre-snap, then gets exposed post-snap. See, Derek Brown is elite, but when your best player has to mask systematic issues every week, that scheme deserves scrutiny, because in my opinion, that bend but don't break has turned into soft and snap. See, that philosophy is supposed to keep plays in front and force mistakes. And instead, what happens is it becomes free access underneath, easy pitch and catch concepts, third and long conversations, conversions that feel automatic. We saw that. That was one of the biggest issues. Zone defense only works when pressure speeds up the quarterback and defenders close windows. Carolina consistently fails at that, especially late. See, I think that third and long is inexcusable. There is no reason, there is no excuse for how often this defense gave up 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 12s and 3rd and forevers. Those are coaching downs, and Evero kept losing them. Passive rush lanes, no containment. You saw soft sticks coverage. You saw zero creativity. There was no execution, and that's by design. Another thing is, J.C. Horn in this scheme, chat, should be a weapon. He should not be a passenger. It feels like he's a passenger, because this one is the most baffling to me. J.C. Horn is one of the best man coverage corners in football, yet Evero rarely lets him travel with the elite receivers. Instead, Horn stays on one side, slot receivers torch linebackers, right? Wide receiver 1 eats everywhere else. Elite defenses dictate matchups where Carolina reacts to them. You're choosing scheme over your best talent in coaching, and that, in my opinion, is coaching malpractice. See, linebackers put in impossible spots. Evero repeatedly asked linebackers to carry slot receivers vertically. Why the fuck is Christian Roseboom or Trevin Wallace going one-on-one with Drake London in the slot? Or why did we see our edge rushers drop back into coverage? Why did we see Derek Brown drop back into coverage? Like, a lot of that shit didn't make sense. You match shifty wide receivers in space, cover zones well outside the athletic profile. That's not modern defense, man. You're setting your players up to fail. And again, another thing, drop pass rushers into coverage. Like, again, I just don't understand why. That was the most frustrating thing is the most frustrating with the Evero's defense, because I'm just in disbelief of seeing that. There is no logical reason to drop edge rushers into shallow zones, right? Dropping Derek Brown into coverage, vacate pressure lanes on passing downs. As a disguise, I get it, but repeatedly, that's insanity. And I think Ejiro Evero is a lunatic. you actively are removing your best chance to affect the quarterback. like, that's where I don't understand. That's where I don't understand. Like, again, another thing is mobile quarterbacks aren't respected enough. That's another reoccurring issue. Look what Baker did to us. No dictated spies, poor rush discipline, and massive scrambling lanes. I mean, I'm pretty sure we got to play the Ravens next year. Lamar Jackson. I'm pretty sure we got to play. I got to look at our schedule again for next year. But I know we play the Ravens at least one game. No dictated spies, poor rushing discipline. Tyler Shook was another perfect example. You see massive scrambling lanes. Mobile quarterbacks aren't improving against Carolina. They're exploiting predictability. Like, if a quarterback can move, then this defense treats it like an afterthought. It costs drives, it costs games, and it costs season. See, the real issue is this. It's riggedy. Above all else, Evero's biggest flaws is stubbornness. The defense looks the same. Early, late, against different quarterbacks, against different personnel. When plan A fails, I just feel like there's no plan B. It's just more plan A. And that's just not modern NFL defense. Again, final thing on Ejiro Evero, then we need to move on. Ejiro Evero is not a bad defensive coordinator, ladies and gentlemen. He's smart. I think he's respected. I think he stabilized a broken unit. That matters. But right now, he's coaching like someone afraid of being blamed, not someone trying to finish. If he stops defaulting to prevent, he starts trusting these corners, fixes this 3rd and long, and adjusts the scheme to the personnel and embraces calculated risk. I think this defense could go from just fine to dangerous. I think the foundation is there, but I think that the excuses are running out. I know they extended him to 2027 and they trust him, but now it's on Evero to decide whether he wants to be solid or actually great. And unless he takes another job, he's going to be here. So yeah, that's all I got to say. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Hold on, I'm going to let my dog out. All right. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're on X, make sure you drop a follow. I appreciate you. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's talk about Ike Ekwonu. So, again, I talked about this on my short, but I really want to give it a full breakdown. This is an absolute nightmare. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This one's tough for me. This one's tough for me to talk about Ike Ekwonu. God. I mean, the timing of his injury couldn't have came worse if he tried. Rupturing his patellar tendon. Doctors are saying it will take 4 to 6 months just to get him to start doing some, like physical rehab, basically activities. It's going to take him at least a full year to get back to strength. Right? And this year was lining himself up for a massive contract extension this offseason. Dan Morgan already acknowledged that this team planned to lock him up before the 2026 season, and it was going to be north of a $20 million per year based on the current left tackle. And there was a lot of sources on that. That plan now is going to be eyes, possibly maybe shattered, because instead of negotiating a deal, now they've got to look at Ike Ekwuonu's immediate future. Now revolves around surgery, rehab. Like I said, clawing his way back to functional football shape. The financial security just took a backseat, because that's a brutal twist for a guy who was on track to get paid. Now, like I said, sports MD physician Bryson Lesnick and Ashish Badid, they've helped guys recover. But a ruptured patella tendon, like I said, may take up to 4 to 6 months. But returning to full strength, football level explosiveness can take up to a year. Now, Joe Persons came out and said that a former tight end, great tight end, Jimmy Graham, had the same injury. This was back in like 2015. That was November 2015, but was back at training camp following August. So roughly a 9-month recovery. Again, I get that he was trying to be encouraging, but that's misleading information, man. Like, Ike Ekwonu is not a tight end. We have to remember that this is a 320-pound offensive lineman whose entire job is to absorb violent contact on one knee over and over again. That puts way more stress on that joint. And the Panthers are expected to be extremely cautious. The bottom line here is there is a very real chance that we do not see Ike Ekwonu in 2026 at all. I want to make that clear to you. You probably will not see Ike Ekwonu suit up in a Carolina Panthers uniform in 2026. So you can go again. You can go out. Maybe you can go get Josh Nijman, bring him back, bring him on a short-term solution. Again, he's not great. I think he's functional. He knows the system. He won't cost much. If the Panthers roll with him, they'll need to scheme help. Chip, you're gonna need scheme help for chips, tight end support, quick throws, avoid Bryce Young getting killed. It's continuity, but it's also a clear downgrade. There's other guys out there. Kelvin Beachum, who's going to be is arguably the best free agent stopgap available. I know he's 36. He's not a long-term answer, but he's competent. Wouldn't require a multiple year deal. The downside is he'll have interest across the league. I mean, Carolina isn't exactly the most attractive destination for an aging lineman chasing a ring, but money can talk. I think Jennings Dunker drafting a tackle early feels unlikely unless Carolina decides that Ekwuonu's future is suddenly uncertain long term. Because again, that that tendon that he ruptured, according to reports, is worse than an ACL and an MCL. According to reports, that's like one of the worst injuries you can ever have. I don't know how true that is. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm just telling you from sources that I know. But they won't take one in round 1 if they still believe in him. But in the second or third round, you could probably get Jennings Dunker. It makes sense as a short-term starter, long-term backup. It's the most balanced approach, and it's insurance without panic. You can get him easily. All right. Again, the thing that sucks about this is, like, if you look at it from a big picture standpoint, chat, like, the injury doesn't hurt the offensive line necessarily. What it does do is that it's going to mess with the roster planning, like cap strategy, timeline expectations, right? I mean, if we're building around, because I think they believe that Ekwonu is a cornerstone. right? And now you have to hope that he can simply make it back on the field at full strength. I think that for a guy that there's no quit in him, anyone who's watching Guano knows that he'll tack the rehab the same way he tacks defenders. The road back is going to be a long one, probably a painful one, and probably an unpredictable one. But this is a big one. This was the one I didn't want to talk about last night, but I made one. This was made a short about it. I didn't want to talk about it. He's gonna miss most of the season, or he's gonna miss all of it. It's gonna be one or the other, chat. I don't know how long, but the timeline says at least a year. 4 to 6 months just to get back to rehab and physical rehab and all that. Yeah. Not ideal. He might never be the same again. That's a possibility. Apparently that rupturing that patellar tendon is worse than tearing your ACL and an MCL in the same knee. According to reports. I don't know. Watch the I will be at the Senior Bowl. That is the plan. That is the plan. I got my credentials. The plan is to go to the Senior Bowl. Which is at the end of the month, if I'm not mistaken. Senior Bowl. When is the Senior Bowl? Hold on. I got to double check this date. Yeah, it's at the end of the month. So that is a goal of mine. I got my Senior Bowl credentials. Would love to go down there. Going to try to work it out. All right. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Let's talk about Mr. Rico Dowdle here. I'm sure y'all have seen this video. He feels like he should be a lead back, but I got some things to tell my boy Rico Dowdle.
It is what it is. I don't control what I can control. Go from that, but that definitely plays a factor.
Why do you think your reps got cut?
No idea.
They never gave you an explanation. How does that? Could you just expand on how that'll be part of your thinking?
Just obviously for me, just want to be a guy and go out there and just get the ball, trying to let it run. Like I said, I think my game just shows like the more I get throughout the game, the stronger, the better I get. So just want to take that into consideration from how I played out the last couple weeks. But we got two great guys in the backfield, so it'd be hard sometimes. The coach got to just find a way to figure it out. So definitely got.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. I'm going to go ahead and say this. Sometimes players don't need a press conference or a social media rant to make their point. Sometimes all it takes is the body language, a few careful chosen words. But the cold reality of how a coaching staff treats you when the game actually matters, that's what happened to Rico Dowdle, right? Dowdle's first, possibly only season Carolina looks like it's headed for a quite awkward breakup, if I'm going to be honest. Because signs have been there for weeks, right? I'll say this. He had a strong start to the season. Let's be clear. He earned his role early this season. He ran pissed off, decisive. I said it multiple times. He looked like prime Adrian Peterson out there, physical. He flat out took over the backfield, looked like the most reliable runner the Panthers had. He finished the year with over 1,000 yards, which is nothing to sneeze at on an offense that it wasn't exactly lighting the league on fire. But football doesn't care how you start. It only cares how you finish. And Rico Dowdle's finish was tough. Playoffs tell the real story, and it was brutal. Because if you watch that We can go back and watch the film, Daddle. You were invisible. Like, I'm be honest, Rico Dotto, you were invisible. Somehow you see this, watch this. You were invisible, bro. 5 carries, 9 rushers, yards, 1 catch for 6 yards. That's it. That's the stat line. When your team season is on the line and you're barely used, that's not random. That is a message. Dave Canales was sending you a message, bro. See, they leaned on Chuba Hubbard instead. Hubbard logged 13 carries, picked up 46 yards, scored 2 touchdowns. So when push came to shove, the coaching staff trusted him. They did what I've been saying to do all year. You ride with a hot hand. So I said it. If Rico Dowdle's a hot hand, you ride with him, which you were for the time being. But when Chuba Hubbard came back, and he was starting to get himself back into that rhythm, he started taking over. That tells you everything you need to know. See, Daddle knows what this means. He's not hiding it. He knows what he means. He's just not saying it. Right? Because Daddle he doesn't exactly sound like a guy confident he's coming back. I don't think he's coming back. He admitted that his lack of involvement stuck with him, and he said it would factor into how he approaches free agency this spring. You don't need a decoder ring here. He was frustrated. You could tell he was confused. You could tell he's pretty fucking pissed off. But see, Rico Dowdle's been here before with the Dallas Cowboys. He wanted a bigger role, never fully got it. Carolina looked like his chance to finally be that guy while it worked, and then it didn't. See, that's the issue, because you go look at his numbers, man. The numbers don't lie. See, Dowdle hasn't topped 60 yards since week 9. Rico Dowdle's stat line since week 9. Rico Dowdle's stat line since week 9. Rico Dowdle's 25 carries, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, and in 1 game, week 9 this season. Rico Dowdle's stat since week 9. Let's just go to Rico Dowdle. Let's go to stats. All right. So here we go. So let's go to week 9. So where was week 9? So this is week 18, week 17, week 16, week 15, week 14. Well, this is week 13. No. This was week 15, 16, 17, 18, right? We had the bye. Yeah, he didn't have his stat line wasn't very good, chat. His stat line was not very good. Jesus. Let's see what this says. Since week 9 of the NFL season, Rico Dowdle has seen a significant workload, racking up a substantial rushing yards, including a massive that was 234-yard gain in 1 outing. I know that. But it's not telling me. Either way, maybe we can go look at the games. Let me go look at ESPN. Actually, no. Let me go back to this. Let's go to Rico Dowdle. Jesus, why is this so close up? All right, stat or games. Okay. So week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So this is week 9. So he didn't top. I mean, he didn't top 60 yards since week 9. Good Lord, ads on ads. which was against Green Bay. Week 10 against New Orleans, 53 yards. Atlanta, 45. San Francisco, 38. LA, right before the bye week, 58. The biggest game of the season against Tampa, playoff matchup with the Rams. I mean, he totaled 19 rushing yards combined in the against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the playoff matchup against the Rams. A total between the two games, 19 yards. That is just a complete loss of momentum, chat. That's what that is. That's not bad luck. That's not the coaching staff's fault. That's you losing momentum. Meanwhile, the Panthers have real money, real draft capital tied up elsewhere in that running back room, right? Chuba Hubbard's already paid. Jonathan Brooks is coming back from a torn ACL in the same knee. We don't know what he's going to be. I'm not going to hold my breath on that. I'm not going to hold my breath on that, on Jonathan Brooks. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. All right. I hope he comes back. But Trevor Etienne is viewed as a long-term piece, right? There isn't just a clean lane for Daddle anymore, right? But the writing is on the damn wall, chat. Daddle may have hoped Carolina would reward his early season production with long-term security. Instead, he got phased out when it mattered most. That's usually the beginning of the end. See, he'll probably land somewhere else. Teams always need competent backs, but let's be honest, he's not that elite. Build the offense around him type of tier. He's not. He's not that type of guy. In today's NFL, most teams run committees anyway. Daddle might want a running back one role, but the league probably sees him as a part of a rotation. See, again, our perspective is cold, but it's also logical because on our side, this is just a business. They believe in Hubbard. They're optimistic about Brooks finally getting back for, a fair shake. They like Etienne's upside. So if that room still feels thin, Dan Morgan will add help in that draft or free agency without blinking. Daddle didn't collapse, but he also didn't elevate himself when the pressure was the highest. That's the difference between sticking around and packing your bags. All right. Again, Daddle didn't burn any bridges. He didn't trash the team. He didn't cause any drama. But his reduced role in the biggest moments and his reaction to it sent a clear, unavoidable message that this relationship is probably over. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. And that's just the honest to God truth. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Make sure you guys pound that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you click that post notifications bell so you don't miss any new content. We've got 33 people watching on YouTube. We only got 21 likes, so we've got basically 12 slackers. All right. We got 12 slackers. All right. Choke job by Justin Herbert last night. That is for damn sure. Yeah, and here's another thing that Rico Dowd's got to look at. Look at these free agent running backs. Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker, Javonte Williams, J.K. Dobbins, Kenneth Gainwell, and Tyler Algier. That's what he's got to compete with, bro. I mean, I don't see him getting, again, Again, I don't see him. He's not going to get a starting role. He's not going to be an RB1. He's going to be splitting carries with somebody. That's just the total God honest truth. DP, you're probably right about that. So is Travis Etienne probably. I would love to get Algier from a power back standpoint. I would love to get Algier, but again, I don't know what it depends on Jonathan Brooks, man. I mean, Jonathan Brooks is an elusive back. I think he's a guy that can be shifty, break tackles. You know, he's also a guy that can make guys miss. He's not a power back. The problem is can Jonathan Brooks, after tearing that ACL in the same knee, can he be even 80% of what he was at Texas? That's a big question mark. People forget Jay Brooks, man. He is a big factor in this. He is a big factor. How much is Jonathan Brooks are we going to get back? What Jonathan Brooks are we going to get back? That's the question. Are we going to get how much? How can I really trust this kid to stay healthy? That's another thing. I have to think about that. What's your thoughts on Trey Hendrickson being the guy we really go after? Wesley, I don't see it, brother. I don't see Trey Hendrickson. I don't see that would be sick, broski. Getting Travis Etienne and having Trevor Etienne on the same team, that would be sick. Just saying. I just don't see Carolina going after Trey Hendrickson. I really don't. It's like the T. Higgins thing. They teased us with that. I just don't see it. Same thing with Max Crosby. I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see them going after either one of those guys. Like, truly. I just don't. Trizzy, that is correct. That's the thing. Trey Hendrickson wants to make that bank, and we can't. I don't think we can afford him. That's another thing. I don't think you can afford him. That's the biggest question mark. Because let's not forget, you got Cade Mays you got to worry about, chat. That's a free agent you got to look at. Cade Mays was never supposed to be that important. Let's not forget, you've got to look into trying to re-sign Cade Mays. And then we've got people out here talking like this. Panthers were probably one of the teams who had an offer on the table for wide receiver Romeo Doubs before the trade deadline and lowballed. And he's set to be a free agent this offseason. Quay Walker, it depends on his market value. I have to look, Wesley, I would have to look at his market value. I can go look it up real quick. Quay Walker's market value. Quay Walker's market value. It's around $15-16 million per year. It's about $15-16 million a year. His deal will probably be something like a Nick Bolton or Jermaine Sherwood type of deal, right? $15-17 million. That's where he'll be at. I think the Packers are really keen on getting him back, though. That's just me. JC Horn needs to stay. I mean, he's under contract, so I think he plans on it. How do you feel about Cade Mays? This is a very, very good center draft. Good question, broski. So how do I feel about Cade Mays? Well, Cade Mays is a free agent. He will be. He's more important than people think. I'll say that. He's more important than what people think. He's not bad. That's one thing. That's for sure. He's only 26 years old. We re-signed him last offseason for a 1 year, $3.4 million. He was supposed to be just a depth insurance, but he was supposed to be behind Austin Corbett at center. That didn't last but 5 minutes, right? Because Corbett goes down with that knee injury, and suddenly Mays is shoved into the starting lineup. And basically was thrown in there saying, all right, congrats, man. You're the guy. Don't screw it up, right? And got to give the kid credit where credit's due. He didn't, you know. He started 12 games this season after starting just 15 total games across his first 3 seasons. That alone tells you how unexpected his breakout has been. Despite him missing some time to an ankle injury, was consistently solid when played. He didn't totally suck. Solid, actually reliable, right? Did not allow a single snap, broski bear. Fun fact. I saw this snap the other day. See how he has 726 snaps? Did not allow a single sack. Look at that. 0 sacks allowed, chat. 726 snaps played. Only 2 penalties and 0 sacks allowed. I'm just saying. That's huge coming from him. All right. In fact, he played so well that when Corbett returned, they didn't put Corbett back in at center. Instead, they slid Corbett over to guard, and Mays stayed in the middle of the line. Right? I think here's the thing. Mays is 26-year-old. He does play a premium position. Right? Mays is one of the more intriguing free agents heading into this offseason. But just put together a tape that screams starter, right? And this teams are desperate for interior offensive lineman stability, and they're going to be coming calling. They're not offering 1-year deals. These teams are going to be coming offering for this kid. But if Carolina wants him, but the question is, can they afford him? Because this is where things get uncomfortable. Because Mays is absolutely not signing another $3.4 million deal. That ship has sailed. He's earned more. Someone out there will offer him a multi-year contract, real guaranteed money. Now, here's the thing. Panthers technically have the first crack at keeping him, but the financial math is getting tight as hell. Ike Ekwonu. We'll see how he recovers from that major knee surgery. That will determine his contract. Robert Hunt's already on a massive contract. The offensive line budget isn't exactly flexible right now. That's the thing I'm getting at, because this team has decided whether paying market value for Mays makes sense or whether they're going to gamble on cheaper options and continuity elsewhere, right? This is the NFL, and in this part of the NFL, that sucks because feelings don't matter in the NFL. I think from May's perspective, it's simple. In his mind, he's like, I played my ass off. I prove I can be a starter. I want to get paid like one. That's how shit works. See, for us, our perspective, or from a organization perspective, that's where things get tricky, because they're saying, well, we need stability up front, especially now with Ike Ekwonu's health questioning. Letting a reliable center walk when your blindside protector is rehabbing a serious knee injury is risky as hell. But overspending can screw you really bad. So I think from a Cade May standpoint and from a roster filler to a legitimate free agent problem in one season, and that's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. See, I think we would love to keep him. I would love to keep him. I think Mays would probably love some security. The issue is whether the numbers are going to line up without wrecking the cap, right? So that this offseason will tell us a lot about how serious Carolina is about, building smart, being sustainable trench play, right? Whether they're willing to roll the dice or hope lightning strikes twice. That's kind of where they're at. Either way, this isn't a decision they can dodge, right? It sure as hell won't be cheap. So that's going to be a huge question mark. Going forward. It's going to be a huge question mark going forward, that's for sure. What up, Justin? Appreciate you joining, man. Connor Lou from Auburn. Gonna have to look into some centers, that's for sure, if they don't re-sign Cade Mays. $100 million man, and he's not paying dividends. Oh, you're good. Appreciate that, broski. Brady Christensen's still under contract. So what moves do the Panthers have to make to free up cap space? That I have to dive into more, Zach. That's something I'm going to have to dive into more. I haven't really dug into the cap space. I really haven't dug into a lot of guys yet. The biggest guys that I was looking at was Cade Mays. Jalen Coker's another guy I'm looking at right now. Ike Ekwonu was another one until the injury. So, again, when is free agency? I can't wait. I think we will restructure some deals, make some shit shake. Think Brady will be our starting left tackle next year. Free agency, NFL free agency normally starts, I think, March. NFL free agency. When does it start? Yep. It will start March 11th. I knew it normally started in March. So free agency will start in March. So we'll definitely be looking into that. I'll have to, again, to your question though, Wesley, I'll have to look at some guys that we need to restructure. I mean, Taylor Moton could be a guy that we restructure. I mean, if we're being serious, Taylor Moton could be a guy that they restructure. We'll see. I would just have to look into him. But again, the guys I was looking at from a contract standpoint, extension standpoint, free agent standpoint, has been Cade Mays, Icky, and Jalen Coker. So we'll see. So, all right, let's move on. Let's talk about Bryce Young. Let's talk about Bryce Young to finish out the show. To finish out the show, we're going to talk about Bryce Young. We're going to talk about what Bryce did good, what Bryce did bad, what Bryce improved on, what he needs to continue to improve on. That's what we're going to talk about next. So before we get into that, again, do me a favor. Make sure you smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Again, do me a favor. Make sure you click that post notifications bell so you don't miss out on any new content. I thought this was hilarious, by the way. So I thought you guys would enjoy it. Bryce Young looking at Jimmy Horn in the Carolina Panthers locker room. Oh shit. How he's just the thing that's more impressive about this video is how he's sitting there trying to keep a straight face and without being scared, because I would be shitting my pants on that type of roller coaster right there. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't know about y'all. I hate roller coasters, and I'm not a fan. Not a fan of roller coasters. I don't like things that I don't have in, like, any control, right? You know what I mean? So, but I thought that was a funny video. Thought you guys would enjoy that. I found it more funny, maybe, than you guys did. Let's talk about Mr. Bryce Young, though, because let me find the image I really want to use. Where is it at? So let's talk about Bryce. So Bryce Young's season, I felt like, chat, wasn't a breakout. I felt like it was a survival test, and he passed. Like, if you want a neat little Bryce Young arrived headline, 2025 isn't that story. I'll be honest with you. This wasn't a Pro Bowl leap. It wasn't weekly fireworks. It wasn't some Hollywood comeback where everything magically clicks. And the Panthers become, functional overnight. What this was, though, instead, was a season where Bryce didn't fold. See, y'all thought I was going somewhere else with this. You thought I was going to be rude, ugly. No. After how shaky the early part of his NFL career looked, benching, all the chaos, the whole league ready to dunk on him, that might be the most important step of all, right? The reality of this season for Bryce Young, through all the chaos, through everything, Bryce Young, see, the Panthers didn't give Bryce Young a clean environment. Let's start with that. They gave him football trench warfare. The offensive line was shuffled consistently. That was this season, but that was because of the injuries on the offensive line. Protection broke down. The protection didn't really start breaking down until later on in the season. The run game disappeared late in the season, right? The offensive identity crisis at times. Again, Bryce didn't spiral into what the hell was that version of himself, even with all this stuff. But and that's not a small thing, because that's a quarterback learning how to survive in the NFL, even when things aren't ideal. Okay. Right. And they're almost never really ideal. So I'm going to say this. What Bryce Young did well this season, Chad, is he got better as the year went on. Right. He still looked uncomfortable at times, but I felt like the pocket felt fast. The protection felt fragile. The confidence wasn't fully there. But he didn't regress. He didn't shut down. He steadily improved. And down the stretch, especially in the playoff loss to the Rams, he looked like a real NFL quarterback who belonged on the field, because you saw it in the details. More anticipation, more trust in reads, less bailing from the clean pockets. He was more willingness to hang in there, take the hits, better decision-making overall. Taking hits and getting up matters more than people want to admit. I think it's not just toughness, it's belief. Now, I'll say this. He showed command in big moments. Like this team didn't stay in games in spite of Bryce Young late in the year. They stayed in games because of him. I have to give the kid credit where credit's due. In that wild card game against the Rams, Bryce Young went blow for blow with the MVP of the league, in my opinion, in Matthew Stafford, and didn't look scared. He led scoring drives under pressure, two double-digit deficits. We were down 14 points at one point, also 10 points at one point, right? threw a late touchdown to Jalen Coker that gave us a fourth quarter lead. Now, they didn't win, but the moment didn't swallow him. That's the point. He didn't panic when everything around him was a mess. This is the real growth category. Bryce played behind an injured, rotating offensive line with an offense that sometimes couldn't decide what it wanted to be. A run game that went missing when it mattered most. He wasn't perfect, but he cut down on the truly dumb chaos throws that used to show up when things got uncomfortable. That's maturity. That's not something you fake. So I think going forward, where Bryce Young still has to improve, in my opinion, okay, he has to be more consistently aggressive, whether that's Dave Canales allowing him, because we do need to, we do need to call it what it is when we've seen it multiple times where Dave Canales does not stay aggressive with Bryce Young when he needs to be. Bryce still leaves throws on the field, though. Sometimes he chooses safety over damage when the defense is giving him a window of attack. Some of that is coaching, like I said. Some of that is protection trust issues, right? Some of it is just Bryce needing to flip the mindset switch, right? If he wants to be more solid, he has to hunt plays, not just avoid mistakes. I think another thing he needs to improve on is his pocket management still needs some work. Truly, he improved, but he's still not clean. Like, he can still drift into pressure instead of climbing the pocket the way he needs to, especially against elite pass rushers. That's how you die. Bryce doesn't need to get bigger because he's not going to. He needs to be cleaner, though. Footwork, timing, climbing instead of drifting, getting rid of the ball without turning every snap to an escape attack, right? He needs better support, though. Again, these Alabama quarterbacks are not going to be good unless everything else is good around them, right? They're not going to be perfect or elite unless everything else is elite or good around them. That's just how these Alabama quarterbacks are, man. It's the honest truth. Jalen Hurts is the same thing. Mac Jones is the same thing. All right. It's true. Tua Tagovailoa it's the same thing. He needs better support. I hate to say that because it's like, well, you got T-Mac, you got Jalen Coker, you have 2,000-yard backs. You've drafted 2 back-to-back tight ends. You've drafted how many wide receivers? Blah, 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 blah. You revitalize the offensive line, right? You got an offensive-minded head coach. But he also, the thing is, yes, he needs the support, but he also has to start demanding more. What I mean by that is the Panthers need help him. Better pass protection, a consistent offensive identity. That's where Canales comes in. That's where getting an OC that can actually come in and call plays. Roster improvement, so he isn't always playing from behind. At some point, franchise quarterbacks just don't just survive. They start pulling others with them. See, Bryce took a step forward, I think, in 2025. Now he has to keep pushing that line, right? Now, the 5th-year option. We've all talked about it on this channel here before. Okay? We've all talked about it here on this channel before. Will they pick up his 5th-year option? Yes. Unless Bryce completely collapses in 2026, there won't be another conversation. They will pick. I think they will pick it up. The reason why they should pick it up is because they don't have another option. Okay? Because you do have to think in the back of your mind, well, he showed growth this year. He could take a next step forward the next, but also he could also go somewhere else if you don't pick it up and ball out. But if you also don't pick it up and he balls out this year, then his contract becomes bigger. It goes from 45 to 50 million, 45 to 50 million to 55 to 65 million, especially if you don't pick up his 5th-year option. If you pick up the 5th-year option and he balls out, then you're only going to have to pay him 45 to 50 million per year. Whereas if you don't pick it up and he balls out, then you're going to have to pay him 55 to 65 million. That's just how it works in the league. So, yes. Should they pick it up? Yes. Bryce showed real growth in 2025. I felt like he proved he could handle pressure and adversity. The team is clearly still building around him. I think the teammates love him. The team fights for him. Declining it would scream instability and panic. So picking up his 5th-year option is not some forever commitment. Remember that. It's this team saying, well, we're not resetting the clock when the quarterback is actually trending up, right? Now, why I think that they would decline it is because they don't trust Bryce, right? Maybe they, again, it would, but the problem is that they declined it. It's also kind of dumb as hell because even if you don't trust Bryce, then you're signaling that you doubt the locker room too. And you restart the quarterback search for treadmill, you drag Carolina back into rebuild hell. If the Panthers want continuity, that's how you do it. So again, what Carolina should do while still backing Bryce is, backing Bryce doesn't mean being naive. The Panthers should still add a legit veteran backup, consider drafting a developmental quarterback mid-rounds, and that's no indictment to Bryce. That's a smart team building, right? Bryce has earned the right to keep going. He hasn't earned no questions asked status yet, and that's fine. But the 2025 was the most important kind of progress. Like Bryce didn't silence every doubter in 2025. I think he earned some belief. I think he showed growth under pressure. He didn't shrink in playoffs. He didn't crack when the environment got ugly. Is he a finished product? Absolutely not. Far from it. Is he trending in the right direction? Absolutely. So they should pick up his 5th-year option, keep building around him. Stop acting like every rough patch means the sky's falling. Because here's the thing. You pick up his 5th-year option, he shits the bed. Guess what? You move on from him anyways. But if you keep building around him, then you can get a guy in here with a team that's already built up. That's why you also pick up his 5th-year option. But again, we could also say for the first time in a long time, we actually might have a quarterback worth being patient with. And that's nothing you can't think about either or take note of. That's all I'm saying. I think they'll pick it up, though. I think they'll pick it up. No doubt about that. All right, chat. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate everyone joining the live stream. That is your 2025 season recap. On Wednesday, we're going to be talking about Dave Canales fixed Panthers. Now he has to get out of his own way. We're going to talk about that. Wednesday, we're also going to be talking about Jalen Coker. Didn't just break out. He quietly put someone else on the hot seat in Xavier Legette. So we're going to talk about him as well. We'll also talk about some edge rushers, some big money edge rushers maybe we could be looking at. So that's what we're going to be diving into, some edge rushers. And then we'll start getting into some draft content here soon. Maybe we'll maybe we'll do some draft content on Friday. But I'm going to go watch some more of this Pittsburgh Steelers game, and I am going to go to bed. So appreciate you guys. Love you guys. What a hell of a season it was, man. We're just getting started in 2026. So this is the start of the 2026 season. If you're here, man, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you pound the like button. Become a member today. You can become a member for 99 cents. That 99 cents helps me out a lot. If every subscriber was a 99-cent member, I could quit my job today and do YouTube full time. It's crazy to think about that. I have over 6,000 subscribers. Take 99 cents times my 6,000 subscribers. So it's just crazy to think about. But we're growing, man. We're growing, and I love it. And I appreciate everybody in the chat. I appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate everybody who comes in, shows me love and support. Shout out to you guys. 2025 season was a hell of a one. Probably took some years off my life. But anyways, God bless you guys. I will see you on Wednesday. Actually, don't forget, tomorrow, 8 p.m. EST, NFC South Roundtable. Y'all know where to be. Be there. We're gonna have some talks, them boys over there. And then Wednesday, we'll talk about Dave Canales, how he needs to improve as a head coach, what he's done right, what he needs to improve on. We'll talk about Jalen Coker extension, and we're going to talk about some free agent linebackers and edge rushers. Maybe we can target, maybe even some safeties we'll look at as well. So shout out to you guys again. Appreciate you guys. As always, y'all know what to do. I'm out of here. Peace. Keep pounding.